Good afternoon to everyone, and we pray that you have found Bethel to be nice and cool. So just a couple housekeeping things. We want to welcome those who are watching us online. We do have masks in the back, and we just ask that if you need a mask, please try to keep the same house protocols as we do church. And so if you need a mask, they're in the back, but we kind of ask that you put the mask on for our time together. So again, we want to welcome you to our first community meeting. We are so excited to be the host district superintendent and others that are here, and certainly we welcome those who are online watching Facebook or YouTube. And certainly we encourage those who are watching us live to share this broadcast. Amen. And so we're going to begin with introductions. First of all, we'll have prayer. Zion Hill, who's former pastor of this great church, will give us a prayer. Then Pastor Elder Hill will introduce our moderator, and then we proceed as follows. Amen? Amen. Zion Hill.
First of all, on behalf of the Coalition of Concerned Clergy, which is made of the pastors of all the historically black congregations in Stanford, we want to welcome you today. This is an effort to hear the community and to give the community an opportunity to have a voice. I want to thank those who have come out today, and we can always achieve more together than we can individually. So thank you so much. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come together today realizing that there are people of different faiths and different religions in our community. They are all about. We lift them up today. We ask that you are going to address all that. We are in a Christian assembly today, so Lord, we pray in a form that Christians pray in, but we are inclusive of everyone because we believe what we've been taught, that God is not a respecter of a person or of gender. So Lord, we ask that you bless us to help our children to do better in this school system, and help this school system to be the model for the school system. We thank you for the sacrifices they make. We thank you for the board members and volunteers, the school bus drivers, custodians, and all who work to make our system what it is. Continue to bless and keep us. These are other blessings we ask in Christ's name. And it is my privilege to present to you Bishop James Hinton, who is a bishop at the Rose of Sharon Apostolic Church and our Church of Fellowship. And here in Stanford, he is a wonderful person, servant, a person who has the best interests of the community at heart. And he has called this committee together. He is the chairperson of this committee. And he will now give us direction. Would you please receive Bishop Hinton? Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Hill. It is my pleasure to be here today. We are in for a treat, actually. This is the first of many Stanford community meetings that are going to be held. I just want to give you some dates, first of all, to mark your calendars and to pinpoint. The first one is today again, and it's the 16th today. We are definitely in a treat. We have none other than Stanford Public Schools Superintendent, Dr. Lucero, who will be one of the speakers today. We also have the Alliance for Black Achievement, which is who are going to talk to us. And last but not least, the Stanford Cares Mentoring Program. So those are the top three people that will be coming to us and sharing some information to us. But mark your calendars for Saturday, July 23rd at Union Baptist Church, 805 Bloomfield Avenue. We are going to be talking about the topic of gun violence. And then again on July the 31st at Rose of Sharon Ministries, 652 Glenwood Road, we're going to be talking about mental health and mental health awareness. So, the first of Stanford community meetings. I just did the lineup.
Times of those two.
The time in the Union Baptist, which is the gun violence, is 10 a.m. The Again, that's 805 Newfield Avenue. The time for Rosa Sharon, which we're talking about mental health, is 6 p.m. So please mark your calendars and just come on out and be a definite support. As I mentioned before, Elder Hill did do the purpose and did do what we're going to talk about today. Our first speaker, or our first person is going to talk to us on the education achievement is Dr. Lucero. She's been in Stanford for 25 years as a career in education. She's no stranger to us. She's a superintendent here in Stanford, Connecticut. She's passionate about what she does. She's educated, but most of all, she's going to tell us about the staffing that's going on here in Stanford, Connecticut, and what we need to do about it so that our children can be properly taught. And she may even talk about the retention and give us more information to help us out. So, if you can put your hands together, those that are here with inside the building, and welcome Dr. Lucero. I'm going to just give you the whole platform, so anytime I'll be running inside and taking questions. If you have questions that are streaming, please type them in, and we will get them, and we'll be able to ask questions immediately after. For those that are in the room here, if you raise your hand, I'll be able to get to you, and we'll answer those questions right after she gives us some highlights and information. Is that all right with everybody? Great.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is my second time here this year having some conversations about Stanford Public Schools and some of the work that we are doing. I always like to remind people that I've been a superintendent here in Stanford for 3 years, and 9 months into my superintendency, COVID hit, right? And so some of the things that we have had to put in place in Stanford, we had to do under the urgency of keeping people healthy and safe. And so now we have determined as a community that we have to find a way to kind of get things moving again. And so we are really excited about some of the new initiatives that we've put in place in Stanford Public Schools. And a lot of it really revolves around some listening sessions that I've done with our staff, because education has become very complicated. Before, I think we all graduated and we said, you know, I think I want to be a teacher. And we knew that that was going to be our life's work, right? Most of us who are educators, we knew from a very young age that that's what we wanted to do. But that's not the case anymore. We have people graduating and they may stay with us 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, which allows us not to have a lot of consistency in teaching. We also have to continue to work with our universities, because how they prepare teachers 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, really don't meet the needs of what our students need today, especially in a diverse community like Stanford. And so some of the work that we started doing in Stanford Public Schools around reading, really, we had to really think about how we were educating our teachers and providing professional development for our teachers as it relates to reading. If you look at test scores, they really haven't changed over the last 25, 30, 40 years, not just here in Stanford, but across the country. And that's because we're not really taking a really strong look at how do we teach teachers how to teach. And so I, as a superintendent, could sit back and say, those college people, they just don't teach teachers well, and that's why our children aren't learning to read at the pace that they should. Or I could know what I know because I was a reading teacher, I was an elementary teacher. I took what I knew about reading and we started having discussions. What do we need to do in Stanford Public Schools to better continue to train our teachers to be better reading teachers? And so we all read some books related to the science of reading. And many people don't realize that 95% of your brain is developed by the time you walk into any public school district. So when 95% of your brain is developed, it's really hard for us to rewire if it was not developed in a way that makes it most encouraging for you to be able to read. We can teach you how to read at any age, but the older you get, the harder it is. And so what we know for certain is that this has to do about from birth to 3, the communication, the conversations, the vocabulary that a child is hearing on a regular basis. That's far before they get into the public school district, right? So we need to do something about our birth to 3 programs. Then we have to think about our pre-K programs, and this is a lot of the work that we did prior to COVID. We knew that it was very important for all of our students, or as many students as possible, to have a pre-K experience prior to coming into school. Why? Because it helps to wire children's brains differently. And when you wire children's brains differently, you are doing preventative care so that we don't have to do intervention when you come into school. When I came to Stanford Public Schools, 80% of our students were in intervention. That makes no sense. But when we started to tease back and really peel back that onion, the true issues were 2 things. That if children weren't attending a pre-K program, that's a problem. And if our teachers did not know what to do if a kid struggled, and this is not the teacher's fault, because you're trained to do certain things while you're in college, right? And if you're trained to teach in a particular way, then it's important for us to really build on that as people enter our school district. So we now have training, coaching in all of our elementary schools for for teachers who are teaching reading. So we are able to provide that support that is needed so they clearly understand that if a kid struggles, this is what I'm going to do about it. And that's a lot of the work that we're doing currently. We also have to accept, and this is a conversation that I have had with Mayor Simmons, and that we will continue to have with the Board of Finance and the Board of Reps. This thing that we do every year where we say that we're going to put in a budget, and then that budget is cut, and then staffing is cut, has got to stop. So this fall, I am partnering with our teachers union and our para union and all of our other unions that work with children. And we're going to have a conversation about what are the staffing needs in Stanford Public Schools. And if we decide that every Stanford Public Schools needs 3 reading teachers, then we're not going to debate it. We're going to have 3 reading teachers in every building. And when we go to the Board of Reps and the Board of Finance, they already know that that's going to be requested in the budget. If we decide as a community that class sizes should not be over, and I'm making this up, 18, then it's simple math after that, right? If you have more than 18 children, you get a new teacher. That's the end of it. And we're done arguing about the budget because it's a silly, silly act that we do every year where we go in, we ask for money, they say it's too much, we cut the budget. I understand it, but if I give you a true indication, as we've done with our master facilities plan, what did we do? We went and assessed all of the buildings. We determined how much it was going to cost to repair all of the buildings, and then we set up a plan for what that's going to look like. We need to do something similar with our staffing needs in Stanford Public Schools, or we're going to continue down this path of not having the resources that need to be in place so that we have structures that allow for teachers to be able to teach, but not feel like it's all on their plate. That if there is a student that's struggling, there's a reading teacher that supports the work that the teacher is doing in the classroom. So we have tier 1 support where the teacher is able to do the very best they can, but when the problem gets a little bigger and the kid struggles a little more, there needs to be extra support there. So that's the work we're doing in Stanford. I'm really excited about it. I think that finally we're getting to a place that we're able to have a conversation of what do we really need to educate all children in Stanford Public Schools. And so although I've been in the job for 3 years, it is, I feel like, my 10th month. And we are going to start at that level to say we are ready to move forward with some of the really good work. And it's not that we just sat around during COVID, but I did a lot of thinking during COVID. It gave you a lot of quiet time to really think, what do we need to move this district forward? So really excited about this work, but it's going to take all of us to do this work. And when we have these conversations about staffing needs, if your voice isn't there to share what you think those needs are, then I think we're going to be at a loss, because we know, even though they may be a small minority of voices, the loudest voices seem to always win in this town. And so we need to find a way to make our voices bigger, especially because everyone deserves to have some sort of input on the needs of all children in Sanford Public Schools.
Thank you so much. At this time, are there any questions in the audience that someone might have? Yes.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Are you telling us that we need?
Hold on one second. Someone's going to bring you a mic so that we all can hear. But some people out on the street may not be able to hear you. Sorry.
Are you telling us that we need a better prepared early childhood and pre-education group of individuals to teach our children?
I am, and so we're not waiting for the community to be able to do this alone. Mayor Simmons and I have had this conversation. We're both committed to doing this work. And one of the programs that we're starting before we are able to build something brick and mortar at this time is a Birth to 5 program that would allow for families, the minute they leave the hospital, we're going to partner with the hospital and with some of our community-based organizations, so that when someone leaves the hospital, we do an ages and stages monthly meeting with families where we invite them in, and every month we're sharing with them, your child should be progressing to here, and we're going to then hand them books, we're going to hand them activities that they can do that do some brain development work, so that when they leave each month, they have something in their hands, so that they are, by the time they get to pre-K, where they would go at 3 to a pre-K program, they're prepared to go into that pre-K program.
And we're going to have teachers in the pre-K program that have been trained properly.
That's
with respect to how to teach a child to read, etc.
That's absolutely correct, and we are working with our area pre-K program so that they're able to do that.
Okay. May I make a suggestion with respect to getting the community involved? I think we should take the Cradle to Career or whomever. They should have opinion pieces in the newspaper, and opinion pieces that go into the churches, so that we understand what is actually taking place at each and every step, because 99% of the community, as you can see, is not here. So which means that group who's not here will not get the information that a few of us have. So if you can make arrangements to make sure that these opinion pieces go out, and so that we know what you're doing with respect to preschool, we know what you're doing with respect to from day one in a child's life. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I have a secondary question, follow-up. What can our churches do to assist, if there's anything we can do to assist?
Well, you just gave me a wonderful idea that if it's okay, I write a weekly message, and I would love to write a monthly message that would be distributed in every church, because then I can keep you all updated on exactly what's happening and what we're doing. So I think that's an excellent idea, and I'll write it specifically for the churches so that they absolutely understand if you have a child at any grade level, birth to 18, that you would know exactly what is going on. I'd be happy to do that. I think that's a wonderful idea. And we can talk about staffing, we can talk about people that we need to employ. And so if you have people in the congregation that need to be employed, we have many different opportunities in Sanford Public Schools. And then we can also talk about the educational piece of it also. So Joyce, I'll work with you to figure out what the key components would be. We'll try one in August, and then you all can give me feedback as to what else needs to be added to it.
I would just like to add also, so your emails are very informative. So we could just simply take what you already have, not put additional work on you, and just disseminate it in our various churches via email, because you already do it every week.
I do.
And so I just think we don't have access to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Outside of those who are not parents, perhaps, we get it as parents, but for those who are not parents, we can just,
we will send you all information on step-by-step of how to sign up for that. That's
right.
Wonderful. That's great.
Are there any, don't forget, if you are streaming, you can type your questions in, and we may be able to get them answered. Are there any more questions here within the sanctuary? Yes?
You mentioned the importance of selling.
Can you hold on 1 second to me get the mic to make sure everyone hears?
You talked about so you talked about the importance of instilling more reading in like pre-K and kindergarten programs. Would you kind of put that in the form of like an after-school program, like a Roscoe, or how would you do?
Yeah, I think anywhere a child can read, on any device they can read on, or actually having books in their hands. I was just over at the Jackie Robinson Park. It looks like they're putting a story walk there. I do think that we need to have books available. It would be great if you think at the back of every church there is a box of books that kids can grab a book every week and then return a book after that. If we get a list of where the bookmobile is going to be around town. There are so many resources out there, but there is research out there that says if you are in walking distance to a library, you have a better chance of reading on grade level. And so just knowing that little piece of it, it's important that there are libraries all around town. We were having a conversation with the Ferguson Library, how we can partner as we are building new schools in Sanford, that we are able to put some sort of community library in each of our schools so that it doesn't come to, if I happen to be in walking distance of a library, I'm going to read better than my neighbor who doesn't have that available to them. So any opportunities that we have, we partner with Roscoe with a lot of the work that we're doing, and we hope to continue to do that.
Okay, excellent question. Are there any student questions?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
There is one online. Good afternoon, Dr. Lucero. A person is asking regarding cultivating the pipeline of education. This person was a paraeducator in the system and interested in tuition and reimbursement and lines to become certified staff and a pipeline for teacher opportunities.
Yeah, we have two work programs now. One that is really focused on encouraging our high school students to think about becoming a teacher. We have some work, wonderful work done by Angela Thomas-Gray back there with our adult ed program. I was just singing her praises the other day. I said she's making it happen over there. She's doing certifications for everyone who is in the adult ed program now. So that's one pathway. There's also a program that we have invested some money in for 3 paraeducators or substitute teachers who are interested and have a bachelor's degree in another area and are interested in becoming educators. We will pay for that program for them, and we will pay you to work for us while you go through that program, which is huge because we know that different communities aren't able to just say, I'm going to stop my job and go back to school and become a teacher. We're going to allow you to enter this program. So we have 3 teachers who went through that program last year, and we have budgeted for 6 teachers to go through for this next school year, and hopefully we will keep adding to that every year. But when we talk about our budget, these are the kind of conversations we need to have, because that's not just helping Sanford Public Schools, that's helping our city, right? So this should be something that everyone's saying that we are willing to pay, and the cost is about $60,000, but from that, we got 3 new teachers. That's huge to me. So we will continue to work on that program, those two programs.
If I can add to
Yes.
that, I believe I heard you say correctly that they had their bachelor's. Some paras do not have their bachelor's. Is there any type of program coming up that you may know of to give them reimbursement of tuition or something to get them started? Some of them have been in our system for a long time, and they'd like to get to that next level of help.
So I think that anything is possible. And I always say my favorite book is What Do You Do With an Idea? And it's a children's book about a little boy who has an idea and doesn't want to share it, but once he does, it makes a huge difference. So keep sharing your ideas. We have Charmaine Torres, Davis here, who is just taking on a new role. She will be doing recruiting for us. And so one of her roles as a recruiter is to come up with seeing where our barriers are and building a bridge or figuring out how you're going to get over some of the hurdles. And so we will have a conversation about what that might look like, because we do know that we have to put money into this if we really are going to make a difference. Yeah.
Dr. Lucero, you mentioned about having the program and having 6 individuals being part of it coming up. Now, may I ask, what is the diversity in terms of individuals that will be coming up, or what was the diversity of the 3 of the last 3?
So the program is for us to have more Black teachers in our schools. And so it is, I believe that 2 of the teachers were African American and 1 was Hispanic. So the point is, it's for minority recruitment.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any more standing questions?
There are.
Oh, 1 second.
It's me again, Doctor. Is the Board of Education going to work closely with the new housing developers in Stanford to make sure that when they put up a brand new development, that they put aside housing for teachers, the individuals that are just graduating, because it is extremely hard for the majority of people to live in the city of Stanford, certainly on a teacher's salary, certainly after just getting out of college. I think that is an area that would assist us in getting those new people in town, getting a diverse community of educators. So I appreciate if you would approach the Board of Education, tell them that they need to begin to negotiate with developers. That should be part of some of the things that the developer does.
I 100% agree with you, and one of the reasons why when the housing study that was just finished, the reason why I sat on that committee is just for this. The fact that we have 1/3 of our teachers who have graduated from Stanford Public Schools, but there is only a small percentage of them who actually live in Stanford because they can't afford to live in Stanford is a problem, right? They want to come back, they want to teach in this community. I'm certain that they want to live in this community. And then what happens to them? This is about teacher retention also, because if I live in Milford, I'm going to at some point be tired of driving. I drove to Weathersfield the other day. I thought if I have to make this drive every day, I wouldn't do it for 5 minutes. And so what we have is teachers leaving our school districts so that they can be closer to home. They have children of their own and they don't want to be that far away from their children. So given the opportunity, I was just talking to someone in the district that I used to teach in, they gave you a bonus for teaching in the school district. If you lived in a school district and taught in the school district, you got a bonus every year. And it's just an acknowledgement that if I live here, I should get a little bit of something. But if I know that there are many school districts, San Francisco being one of them, who have built housing just for their teachers. And so I do think that we need to consider that as we are starting to build new property. Now, I know people from the mayor's office are here. Maybe they want to speak to that.
I believe.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Janine Freeman, and I am the Mayor's Special Assistant for Community Engagement and Partnerships. And I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation, and thank you very much for the question. There is actually an opportunity at this point that will be before the Board of Representatives. And it is a housing development project in the Glenbrook section of Stanford. And one of the considerations is making sure that the units that are being developed are affordable. So the rents right now are going anywhere from 11,000 to, $1,100 a month to about 2,400 a month, which is very much in line with what's already being charged in the Glenbrook section. And the thought behind the development was explicitly to do just what you mentioned, making sure that we are creating opportunities for people who live here, who work here, to be able to afford the opportunity to be here and to have the space to call their home. So I think to the extent that we can make sure that people are aware of this opportunity, to also encourage our board of representatives to think deeply about this issue and to make sure that we are approving projects that are explicitly designed to create affordable housing so that all of the people here in Stanford have an opportunity to live here. I think is important.
Thank you very much for that update. I have one question, and in the interest of time, I know that we have two more great speakers coming behind. If you can list two things, as a call to action for everyone here listening and for those streaming, for us to do, what would be one or two of those things that we can do immediately when we leave here and get started on?
So, number one, when school starts, develop a relationship with your teacher and your principal. Somehow, whether that is reaching out to them, if you don't feel like they're reaching out to you, being a part of your school community, because we know those relationships matter. And your children are watching, right? And if they see that you have a relationship with their teacher, they all of a sudden behave differently, right? Because they're like, they know one another, So develop that relationship, develop the relationship. Don't let the first conversation you have with the teacher or with the principal be a negative conversation. So I really encourage that. And second, I'm always going to be a proponent of reading. Read every night. Everyone should be reading. And those adults too, we all should be reading. There's wonderful literature out there. One of the things that I am going to attempt to add to my weekly message is suggestions of either articles or things that we can be reading together, because people need to understand the science of reading. People need to and these are just really small articles that we can read, but I think we all as a community need to just be encouraging each other to read. I'm going to throw a third one in. If you are a child's trusted adult, try to become a trusted adult to a child. We know that if every child in our community has a trusted adult that cares about them, who's checking in on them, that it is less likely that they are going to want to do harm to others or to themselves. So please think about look to your left and right, and if you don't have someone that you can say, I'm their trusted adult, go find a kid, and there's plenty of them out there. And even if you're a repeat person for that person, I'm going to be EJ's trusted adult. That's what we need to be saying. I am such and such, and I'm going to start asking you, whose trusted adult are you? Because they need trusted adults. They need someone that they can trust.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we transition to the next group, are there any more questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
One of the concerns with respect to hiring.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes.
Sir?
One of the concerns with respect to hiring is timing. And I may have mentioned this in the past, where by the time the budget is approved for other districts with whom we are in competition for talent, and their budgets have already been approved in our hiring process.
Right.
So what can be done to kind of expedite the standard budget process so that we can be more competitive with our districts with respect to talent?
So interesting enough, you know how people say, this is a rule, And I learned as superintendent, I go and check when someone tells me something's a rule. Sometimes it's just what we've always done. So I found out 2 years ago that we don't have to wait until the budget is completely passed. So we do what's called early hiring for hard-to-fill areas, and so we were able to hire 60% positions this year prior to the budget being covered. So we are now moving forward with hiring so that we are able to get out there and hire those hard-to-fill areas. You know, some areas we can hire August 1st, and we will still get a lot of candidates. And we know that there are some areas, special education, EL, that if we don't start hiring immediately, we're going to be in the trouble that you're talking about. So we tried it last year. It didn't go as well as it did this year.
Thank you. Dr. Lucero, thank you so much. I learned a lot today. If anyone who is streaming have further questions, you can tap them into the streaming line, and we'll be able to get them to you. And for those out there streaming, tag someone, send it out. We have 2 phenomenal groups coming up next, and let's share. Thank you again, Dr. Lucero.
Thank you so much for having me.
While the next group is preparing to come, I just want to let you know that the Concerned Clergy Coalition has 19 members. They make up a group of churches here in Stamford, Connecticut, and if you want to know more about them, you can see any of the pastors here, and we'll be able to share more with you. The next group that's coming is the Alliance for Black Achievement. We have 2 presenters, Edith Presley and Charmaine Davis. The Alliance, oh, you can clap, that's all right. The Alliance for Black Achievement is focused on increasing the academic achievement and social/emotional well-being of Stamford Public Schools and Black students. Now, what they're going to talk about is the objective of the organization, their website, and tell us more information about them. Please welcome Edith Presley and Charmaine Davis.
Thank you to the Concerned Clergy for hosting a community forum. It's very important that we're able to keep everyone informed and involved with just best practices and strategies to get better, stronger, faster for our students and for our community. The Alliance for Black Achievement is a group of local stakeholders made up of parents, educators, folks in the community, just looking for solutions as it relates to the demographic of Black students. When we analyze the data as it relates to graduation rates, suspension rates, reading rates, unfortunately, at each of those terms, Black students are performing at the bottom in each of those indicators. We know Stanford's a great city. Each year we send students to Yale, to Harvard, to UPenn, and we want to make sure that those same outcomes are representative of all of the students that we serve. So together we got together and started to think, and through lots of conversations and lots of meetings through a pandemic, we determined 4 particular objectives. I'll overview those objectives and answer any questions that you may have, in addition to my colleague and mentor, Charmaine Davis, who's here to talk about her input. I'd like to overview objective 1 and 2 and give her the opportunity to overview objective 3 and 4. So the first objective is really characterized by what we're doing here today, and that's capturing the authentic voice of the community. A lot of times decisions are made based on surveys, based on prior practice, based on things that people think are right and aren't policy at all. It's really important to the Alliance for Black Achievement that we hear from Black students, that we hear from Black parents, we hear from community members about what you all need in order to affect the system for better outcomes for our children. So having and hosting events like this, in addition to having our website and email address, Our website is afbastanford.org. Please funnel any questions or content there. We'll respond to that way in order to really raise and elevate the conversation. So it's not something that's thought of being done to people or on behalf of people, but really in partnership with people. Our second objective is around driving data and partnerships and programs to enhance the outcomes of Black students. Later on in this program, we'll hear a little bit more about the CARES mentoring initiative, things like that, and programs to really think out of the box in partnership with the school district to help the achievement of Black students is objective 1 and 2 of the Alliance for Black Achievement.
Thank you, Edith. I am excited to be here today. Thank you for everyone who's come out and to those of you who are streaming online. So for objective 3, the main thrust is really about speaking to one of the questions that was streamed in earlier, and that is, how can we grow our own within the Stanford Public School System? I am a proud product of said programs. I started in this district as a substitute teacher through our university internship program, and worked hard over the years to be trained and to learn how to be a teacher, and went on into administration and just continued to grow and to learn. I believe strongly that we have to look from within, not only to continue to expand our various staff groups, but also to continue to broaden the representation. And that's a huge part of the work of the Alliance for Black Achievement. How can we help our students, and in particular, with the work of the Alliance, how can we help our African-American students who are right now struggling academically and have been for a long time? How can we help our students see themselves in the many adults who, as our superintendent mentioned, who they trust and they want to work hard for so they can make themselves proud and those trusted adults around them. So objective 3 for the Alliance is to find ways to expand our staff, to grow from within, to find students who want to become educators, to find para-educators who want to become teachers, and other members of the community who can strongly represent Stanford and Stanford Public Schools and the students we serve. Objective 4 is to build and strengthen the partnership, specifically between the Alliance and the Stanford Board of Education. And I am so proud of the work that's been done there and the accomplishments that have already been made, and I know much work is yet to come. We are currently acting in collaboration via the Alliance and the Board of Ed, having an ad hoc committee that meets monthly, and we're just getting off the ground with that, but we're super excited about having direct conversations on how we can push these very important and time-sensitive, I can't stress enough, our kids can't wait, these important objectives along. So those are the 4 objectives of the Alliance for Black Achievement. I want to also just celebrate the fact that, as Edith mentioned, we welcome your participation. If you want to be a part of this work, please join us. We need all members and all voices of the community. One of the things I'm proudest about across the Alliance is, as much as we need the representation of Black community members to help lead this work, we can proudly state that we have members from all races and ethnicities who are very active members on this Alliance, various genders. We have business, community members, corporate leaders. We are very blessed, fortunate to have connections with various organizations and agencies as well. The bottom line is relationship and partnership on behalf of our students. So thank you for giving us a few minutes just to outline the work of the Alliance. And again, we invite you to be a part of the solution so that when we say success for all in Stanford Public Schools, we are finally meaning all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions here in the audience? Yeah.
Can you please tell me, are you willing to go into the communities in which you serve? For example, there is a community room at each and every housing development. We know that parents have difficulty getting to certain locations, but your housing association president and your city reps can arrange for you to meet, go to the parents directly by meeting them in their community rooms to discuss the same issues and matters that are of importance to them directly. If we help you get that done, would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely, we would love that invitation and partnership. It really is about meeting folks where they are and having structures that folks are able to talk about what will help them and advance them, and also in that same vein, producing advocacy. So we have those meetings at that place, but also folks are encouraged to come to the board meetings for time for the public to be heard in really general settings as well. So I think both are very important, but absolutely.
Well, I think you'd be able to get more to come to the board meeting if you go to them and explain the reason why you need them at these board meetings.
Totally agree.
Would you like that to happen before school starts, or would you like these meetings to begin after school starts?
I think the sooner the better. If we can galvanize and set an agenda prior to the start of the school year, I think that's very important.
Okay, so if I can have your information before I leave, I'd be more than happy to start that for you. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Can I just piggyback on that for just a moment? To your question about when we're ready to start, right now. We're here gathered in, one of our very prominent and very visible community churches at this very moment. And I think it's important to note that we have already, as an alliance, held weekend community sessions inviting, they've been virtual because we have tried to broaden the audience and because of COVID and other constraints, of course. But one of the many, and I've talked with my colleagues about this over the last 2 years and our leadership of the district. One of our goals is to look into what occurred and what we've experienced through the pandemic and say, what can we continue with? What must we never look back and do again? And what are the fortunate pieces that have come out of this? What have we learned? And one thing we've learned as far as embracing all voices is just the opportunity to go virtual and to offer meeting time where people can just tune in from their smartphone and be a part of the work. So we've already had, I think, 2 for sure. We might have had a third because I know I wasn't able to attend one. But we have invited the community at large, and I think our next steps will be boots on the ground, getting into the very communities and centers that you mentioned. But I didn't want to not mention the fact that we've already started that work in support of Objective 1, which is elevating the voice of our Black families and students.
Mrs. Presley, can you tell us again the website that they can get involved in, or if anyone would like to become a member or work with your group?
Sure. The structure of the organization is broken out into 4 subcommittees based on those objectives that we outlined, and they're all on the website, and that's afbastanford.org. So please visit that. It directs you to a Gmail account if you want to contact us directly, and outlines the objectives and follow-up steps. I think it's important to say sometimes we're asked the question, why Black students? Why would you itemize Alliance for Black Achievement versus the Alliance for All Student Achievement? And I think it goes without saying that we believe that all students in Stanford Public Schools, Black, brown, white, polka dotted, purple, however you show up, should have benefits to the highest potential of our system. The way that I like to give the analogy is that we're a family, and that we are all growing and learning and developing in this community together. However, the data shows anecdotally, quantitatively, and any other way that you would like to measure, that in the Black community, one member of our family in Stanford isn't achieving as fast or as far as the others. So when that happens, it requires a specific approach to figure out what's wrong with that family member so that we can all thrive. So that's the best analogy I can give to why we've singled out the Black community. It's because the data suggests that we're not thriving. And when one member of your family is not thriving, the other members lean in to make sure that you have outcomes that make everyone healthy and to make everyone able to accomplish and to access everything that the family has to offer. And that's what I believe about Stanford. I know that we can do it, and I just thought that that was important to know because sometimes that question comes up.
I heard you mention data. You may be able to share more about this survey that just came out recently and enlighten us a little bit more about where we can see the results from it and highlight it, if you don't mind.
Sure. I believe the plan is for August's board meetings for it to be a presentation on the recent school climate and culture survey. That's an instrument that's given to students, to teachers, to families to ask about how we're doing, how they're feeling in our schools. And I think that a lot of effort has gone into it this time around to set a baseline of information for us to measure over time. You may hear some complaints that it's not super representative. There is more work that we can do to make sure that our Latino families and Black families respond at the same rate as represented in our schools for sure. But I think that it asks and answers some questions to allow us to at least start to the voyage to make sure that our students and families feel greater sense of belonging in their learning environment. So please stay tuned to that, and I think it's important for us as a community to analyze that result and to anticipate growth.
Are there any questions here in the room? As I asked Dr. Lucero, what is one takeaway that we can do as a call to action that we can immediately leave this building and start to take action on? Or suggestion that we may want to move toward?
One for each. Or can we do group work? I'll jump in there and then you can close us out. I will say, take action. Be a part of the work. We can all sit back and admire the problem, or we can choose to be a part of the solution. And I know sometimes that becomes cliche. So I want to call everyone to action today. Even if it's an effort on a personal level, as our superintendent mentioned earlier, connecting with the child and becoming a trusted adult, or if it's a different type of direction you want to take. Ms. Presley just shared the website information. We've outlined the 4 objectives. We talked about our partnership with the Board of Education, and we're trying to grow those partnerships with community agencies and other organizations. Take action, be a part of this work. I don't care what you look like, what you do for a living. If you care about kids and you care about Stanford, join us in this work. We need everybody's hands and hearts around our students' achievement. So that would be my takeaway.
Can students get involved?
Absolutely. we are looking and seeking for student voice and being responsive to the fact that we need to create the culture where our students feel comfortable and that they have a place and a role, because in many forms students don't. So we want to be deliberate about that seat at the table to make sure that it's prominent, to make sure that that voice is heard. I had a recent conversation about restorative practices and the power in that. And I think it really is just equity and voice. So really making sure that our students know that they're valued members at the table. Likewise, parents, other community members. Sometimes folks feel like if they don't have 2 master's degrees, they can't show up. That's not our work. We really want to capture the voice of the folks that we serve in order to do this well and to be most responsive to our community.
Thank you. So for those streaming, there's a question, yes?
Yes, more of a statement. With respect to the church community, I believe that the pastors should not only allow their churches to be used for these particular events, but the church needs to get their congregation out. It is an embarrassment when there is an event held 100 yards away and 3 or 4 members of a particular church or any church shows up, especially if it's an event dealing with the African American community. The congregation needs to understand that they are part of the community. And the ministers should call us out. We should have a conversation with the congregation. When something is taking place, you tell us that we need to be there. We need to be there. It is truly an embarrassment when you can't get 25 or 30 people in the city of Stanford to show up at a Board of Education meeting when they're discussing things that are going to affect you as a community and you in your conference. Please begin to talk to us as if we are part of this community and that we have a responsibility not only to our churches, but to our community. Thank you.
If I can, I want to just add to that. So most of you know Sister Joyce is a member of Bethel Church, and she speaks very value over all of us, and it just echoes what I really want to say as well. But I would say, and I just shared this with Elder Hill, that I think part of our issue here in Stanford is that some of our congregation, and I can just speak about Bethel, half of our congregants live outside of Stanford, which means that it doesn't impact them as much when we have things like this. Absolutely, with all the congregation we have in Stanford, we should have this church filled over, particularly on the issue of education, and we have to move from, and I always say this as well, move from being reactive to proactive. That's an issue that we always have now. TI is coming on August the 2nd. I believe August the 2nd, August 4th. I'm sure we already have purchased our tickets. You'll see all of us, I'm saying all of us inclusive. I'm not going to go because I'm making, I want to see how many of us see it. But anyway, so I think it's about a matter of priority. And we have to make things such as gun violence that we're doing, mental health, education has to be a priority of our community. And so you're right, we have to do better as pastors, but also as our laypersons have to be responsible as well. But you're absolutely right. I want to thank you for that comment. Absolutely.
I think, I'm sorry. Now, I just want to note that I think that it's a cycle. I think that all of the issues that we're discussing are relative. I had the great fortune to graduate from West Hill High School in the late 90s. And I have, listen, go back. Sorry. Unfortunately, very few of my classmates that are African American still reside in Stanford today. Many people have opted to move to Charlotte, to Atlanta, to Raleigh as a better and greener pasture, more opportunity. Some folks who had the dream of home ownership are in West Haven, New Haven, Bridgeport, Trumbull. So I think it's our responsibility in a conversation around education to make sure that we have access and pathways to the folks that we produce so that they have a lively and a green and lustrous living here in Stanford, because some people just feel like the struggle's too deep. And it goes back to recruiting that the superintendent talked about. How long can we retain a teacher who has to come from West Haven each day? Through the snow, through the inclement weather, through the delayed openings, and really looking about how all of that impacts our children, our school system, and our ecosystem here in Stanford. I think it's all related.
If I could say, I think we need to get rid of the concept, I don't have any. We need to get rid of the concept, I don't have kids in school. My kids have already graduated. If we change that mindset, because they're the same youth that are going to be growing up, working in the stores, working in the communities, working in the local businesses, and we need to help share. You know what? You don't have students here anymore. You don't have kids here anymore. But let's go out and support. Just like Pastor said, TI is coming. But you know what? We can go to the Board of Education meeting also in droves. So I think we gotta change our mindset and say it's inclusive for everybody. Are there any more questions before we transition to the next group? I just want to thank, a round of applause for Mr. Hudson. The next area I want to talk about is Stanford Cares Mentoring Program. The Stanford agency has been alive since 2018, I believe, but the organization on the CARES Mentoring Program has been around for over 25 years. So we have none other than Pastor Robert Jackson is going to tell us a little bit about this and share a video with us. I don't know if they can see the video here, sir. Will they be able to?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can see it. So stay tuned.
So good evening to everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon to everyone again, and thank you for your time today. Just want to show a brief clip, and then after we shall see the clip, I will give a little bit of background about the Stanford Cares Mentoring Program. So technology was giving us a challenge, as I always say, when technology is good when it works, but when it doesn't, sometimes it causes us to do some different things. So just give me just a few moments. And,
okay, these are the facts. 1/3
of all Black children are living in poverty.
These are the facts. These are the facts.
6.6% of all African American
births are to mothers under the age of 18.
Volume 99.
Is a teen mother.
The infant mortality rate for Black babies is more than twice that of the national average and rising.
These are the facts. Nearly half of all Black and Latino children drop out before graduating from high school.
Every day.
Every day in America, more than 1,000 Black children are arrested.
1 in every 8 Black men aged 25 to 29, 25 to 29 is incarcerated.
Our young Latinos are over-incarcerated as well.
For young Black women, aged 25 to 34.
HIV/AIDS is the leading cause of death. The leading cause of death.
And the leading cause of death for our boys, for our young Black men, is homicide.
But these are also the facts. From the hundreds of rebellions that took place on slave ships, to the students who sat in Greensboro, and the students who walked out in Soweto, we have always fought back, always cared for our own, always resisted injustice. We are the people who refuse to die. Like then, what's important now is that we not retreat, not surrender our tradition of faith and that can-do spirit. We can create powerful lives and end the state of emergency among our young. This is the sole purpose of the National Cares Mentoring Movement. Throughout the nation, our dedicated care circle leaders are hard at work. They close in that huge gap between the relatively few Black mentors and the many impoverished Black children in need of our encouragement. We're working on behalf of all children who are poor and struggling. The National Cares Mentoring Movement, founded as Essence Cares, recruits caring adults to serve as role models, tutors, reading buddies, guides, friends, and deploys them to schools, mentoring organizations, and to the academic enrichment programs CARES is building with our partners. Disproportionate numbers of Black children are on waiting lists, and they're hoping that a caring adult will soon show up. And there's a critical need for the wisdom and strength of our beautiful Black men. The children need you so. All we're asking is this, that you give 1 hour a week to help save a life and secure a child.
You can mentor one of the 2.4 million children. 2.4. Almost 2.5 million children. Who has parents? You can get five friends to register and vote.
Failing schools, the carnage in our communities, celebration of fun life, the over-incarceration and relentless demonization of Black males, the demeaning of Black women. No, not 1 hour watch.
You can demand your church. You can demand your church be open for children after school. On Saturdays.
In order to teach our kids an accurate account of their history,
Our faith communities can offer the support our children.
Reading, math, science, technology, high expectations, and love. With our partners, these are the group mentoring supports National Cares is bringing to challenged schools. Help grow and sustain this movement by going online and making a donation, no amount is too small. Connect with your local Cares Mentor recruitment circle. We've lived through harder and harsher times than these. Like then, the most revolutionary thing we can do right now is to love one another. Become a mentor. Help to secure the most vulnerable among us, our children, our beloved children.
So I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in. I'm in.
I'm in.
And what you see now is all of the organizations that are part of the National Cares Group.
Log on to caresmentoring.org and get connected to a Cares affiliate near you.
Wonderful. So thank you again for your time. I just got a few more minutes, and I certainly want to honor your time by us leaving by 1:30. So let me just give you a little background. Bishop mentioned 25 years. Hasn't been exactly 25 years. But let me just read a little bit of the mission from the National Cares Mentor Movement. The National Cares Mentor Movement was founded in 2006 in the wake of Hurricane Katrina as Essence Cares, while Susan L. Taylor was chief editor of Essence Magazine, which again, you saw her kind of coordinating the video. She has led for 27 years. It is the mission of National Cares to transform the lives of Black children by inspiring, recruiting, mobilizing masses of caring Black men and women to mentor and to nourish, challenge, and champion them. Working through a growing network of volunteer-led CARES affiliates across the country, CARES have recruited more than 140,000 mentors, or serving or have served more than 200,000 children. So we started this initiative in 2018. COVID came and we had to pause for a moment, but we are excited to be back on the ground trying to recruit mentors. And so I would just say, if you're interested, please reach out either through our Bethel Facebook page, or you can contact me directly. The program coordinator is Robert Jackson. Yes, Robert Jackson. There's two Robert Jackson. There's this Robert Jackson is going to be our program coordinator. We look forward to partnering with Stanford Public Schools and other organizations to kind of allow us to go into the schools and to do a number of training. It not only deals with students, it also has an element of parent university, so it also educates and gives tools necessary, because we can have the children all day long, but when they go back home, if the parents don't have the tools to reiterate what we're saying in the mentorship program, it's not going to work. So it's a three-pronged approach. Parents, again, mentors, and the wraparound service. It also deals with the trauma behind what many of our children face. And so we're excited. Again, caresmentoring.org is the website if you want to know more about it. But we are asking persons, again, if you have 4 hours a month, this will be ideal for you. Amen. So it's not just let's go shoot basketball for a moment. That's part of it, but it's much more than that. And let me also dispel this myth that only bad children or challenging children need mentors, right? All of us, whatever profession we find ourselves in, we have mentors. I don't consider myself to be a bad pastor, but Elder Hill is one of my mentors, amen? And so you need mentors in whatever arena you serve in. Likewise, our children, does not necessarily mean because you have a mentor assigned to you that you are challenged. Mentors just help inspire, motivate, and do all those good things that persons can become better citizens and community leaders. All right? That's all I have. Thank you again, Bishop. Any questions from the audience? And then I'll do a couple more housekeeping things, and then Elder Hill will come and share. Yes, sir. I think Elder has a question. I certainly want to recognize Bridget as well. That was going to be my last piece before we let her. Since Elder has done it, let me thank again Bridget for being here at the City of Stanford, for allowing us this opportunity to host these 3 meetings, and because of the city that we're allowed to or able to financially do what we have done. And so thank you for getting our invite, Bishop, and thank Brittany for being present, and she would greet us.
Oh, of course, thank you so much. really here providing greetings from Mayor Simmons, who was not able to be with us today, but is so supportive of this ongoing series of conversations on some of the most critical issues that our community faces. So happy to be here, and you had an opportunity to hear from Janine earlier, and just want to reiterate so many of the pieces that have been shared by our leaders this morning, which is we welcome, as an administration, the involvement of community members on some of these really critical issues, including housing, education, gun violence, mental health. So our doors are open, and we want to continue to partner with you as we move forward. So thank you very much for inviting us today.
Amen. Thank you. Wonderful. So certainly we are honored that you all have come to share here at Bethel Church. Bishop will wrap us up with the additional meetings that are forthcoming. And Elder, if you want to say a word or two, certainly. All right, wonderful. Bishop, thank you for moderating this first meeting, and certainly want to recognize Pastor Ford from Faith Tabernacle is here with us, and any other persons. And wonderful. We do have lunch prepared, so after we conclude, Bishop will give us our direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But first, I want us to give a round of applause for Dr. Lucero. And also a round of applause for Mrs. Presley and Mrs. Davis. Last but not least, Pastor Jackson. And give yourselves one also. It's not easy getting up on Saturday morning and coming out, but believe me, the information that was shared today is very helpful. So, takeaway. On the 23rd of July, we will be at Union Baptist Church, 805 Newfield Avenue at 10 a.m. There, Pastor Bradley and his team is going to talk about gun violence. And then again, July the 31st at 6 p.m., we'll be at Rosa Sharon Ministries, where I'm the pastor, and we're going to talk about mental health. Mental health. So mark those two next dates and tell someone, come on out, share the information. The flyer is up and out, so you can pass that along. It's going to be live and it's going to be virtual. So anyone who may need that information, just share it, pass it along. After each event, to get you guys to come out, there's light refreshments. So please, if they don't come out for anything, come out for a sandwich. All right, come out for a sandwich, okay? So just tell everyone to come on out and let's be a part. We'd also like to get your information if you want to be a part of any of the groups or know more about what's going on. There's a sign-up sheet here for those that are online streaming. You can type it into the chat, and we'll be able to get back with you. But we do want to let you know that we need your name, and if you want to be a part of any of the groups, we can get you in contact with them. Elder Hill is going to close us out with our prayer over the food, and give us any more highlights that we may need for next.
Thank you, Bishop, for chairing this committee. Thank you, Pastor, for hosting us. I do want to lift up something that I don't know how many people are ahead of me on, but I had the wonderful experience of meeting Mrs. Freeman. Was it 2 days ago or yesterday?
Yesterday.
I can't keep up anymore. Yesterday at City Hall. And while I was there, I had the privilege of walking through the lobby. And there was so much information about the Stanford Public Schools laying on the table. There's information about tutoring, information about summer enrichment programs. I can't name all of the programs. I did pick up some sheets of paper. Yeah, the parent university. These are things that many parents may not know about, but when my children were growing up, they were very fortunate. They had two parents who had graduate degrees, but we didn't know anything about how to get children through the public school system. And one of our children had a learning disability, and we did not discover that until she was in the 5th grade because she was a well-behaved student. As a fact, she told me while I was working with her at homework, she said, Daddy, I don't think I see like other children see. And I said, well, they didn't give you an eye test at school? She said, no. When I was a child, they did eye test at school. So we took her to an ophthalmologist and discovered that she did not see things as other people. So I just want parents to know and church members to know that there are a lot of opportunities in our school system that we may not be aware of. But for many people who have children in the school system, who Pastor Jackson, who don't live in Stanford, but the children have an address with an uncle or aunt or sister or cousin or something, there's a form to fill out. Sometimes we're hiding because we're afraid that somebody will discover that we in fact do live in Bridgeport and our children go to school in Stanford. So again, there's a way, there's a path. So the school system has reached out, and I want to commend the school system for this. What does your family need to succeed was one of the sheets. And so I just want to bring your attention to the fact that in the City Hall Town Center lobby, there's information that can help families. So I want to thank the public schools. I want to thank all of you, those who, who came out today. Mrs. Griffin, I want to thank you. Your voice has been a wonderful voice in this community. I want to encourage your voice, and we do need to respond. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm supposed to bless the food. Dear Lord, we thank you for the food that has been provided today. We thank you for the city of Stanford, who has a focus on empowerment. We thank you for the leadership of our mayor, Mayor Caroline Simmons, who continues to create opportunities for bridge building and common ground. We ask that you would bless the food for the nourishment of our bodies and consecrate our bodies for higher service. Amen.
Amen.
Go grab a sandwich or something.
Downstairs, you can take this direction, you go right downstairs to the fellowship hall.
And I'll lead the charge.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Don't forget the sign-up sheet is here for education achievement if you want to be a part of it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.